What encouraged you to sign up at this organization?
That's a great question. I am the executive director of Mission Central, and like many of our staff and volunteers, I had actually worked here as a volunteer myself prior to becoming a paid employee. And one of the things that I love about Mission Central and have always known about the place, even before coming to work here, is that we do a lot of very good things for people in the community that really help them to manage their budgets better, help them to have the kinds of services that they need to be able to feed their family. We have a homelessness prevention program, and we have a tutoring program, and we operate a resale store. So I was interested in the place because I enjoy the diversity of this organization and all the different things that we do that make a difference in the community. So that's what really motivated me to apply for the job when it became available. And so I've been here since June of 2010. So I'm about to celebrate the end of my 6th year, I guess.
What kind of clients do you get?
Our clients really are very diverse. The Herschulus and Bedford area, especially where we are located here between Pipeline Road and Highway 10, used to be a very thriving neighborhood back when the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport was first built, which was, I think, sometime in the 70s. This was a community where pilots and flight attendants and people who worked at the airport had their apartments and their homes and all that. So the place where we're physically housed used to be a shopping center where there were vibrant restaurants and Hallmark stores and a photography studio and all of those things. And over time, those neighbors moved further north of town. And here we are years later with same apartments and people who are really struggling financially live in those apartments now. And so the community has changed over time. And so it's really good for us to be right here where the folks who struggle financially are living because they can come here for food. We have a community resource center where we can refer them to other resources if we don't provide them ourselves. And so we're a part of the community, and it's really rewarding to be able to help people.
How much time did it take you to get the job position that you are now?
Oh, that's a great question. I think this particular interview probably went faster than some interview processes. I know from my past, when I changed jobs or applied for a job, sometimes it would be 4 to 6 months before I ever heard about interviews because in those days I was working in a university environment and committees were involved in the interview process and everybody reviewed every application and that whole thing. It took a long time. But here I applied for the job in April and was interviewed in May and started work on June the 6th. So it actually moved pretty quickly, and I think our board of directors was probably anxious to get the position filled because my predecessor had already taken another job and had left the organization, and so there was an interim director who was, in her words, just trying to hold things together until the new director came on board. So it actually moved pretty quickly.
What responsibilities do you maintain at the center?
My job is to be the overall person responsible for Mission Central, and unlike some agencies our size, we have a very small paid staff. There are only 5 full-time employees that work for Mission Central and 3 part-time employees. And so the 8 of us really get our work done through volunteers. We have about 350 volunteers who work with us. So my job is to work with our board of directors to make sure that the mission of the organization is being fulfilled, that our budget is solid, that our revenue stream is good. We get money from our resale store. We get money from churches in the community, from foundations, from corporations, from individuals. And we participate in North Texas Giving Day, which is in September. And that's a time when about 2,000 nonprofits in the North Texas area are fundraising. And so My job is to be involved in making sure that the budget is sound, and making sure that the staff are trained, and that all of the volunteers that we have are trained properly, and that we're able to, really fulfill our mission in the community. So that's my job.
How does this organization unite communities all around?
How does it connect people
Yes.
all around? As you would guess, no organization that works with people who have financial difficulties can do everything, because there's just not any one group that's big enough to do that. And so one of the things we're committed to here is to be a community resource center where people can come to us, and if we're not able to provide services to them that they need, we're able to refer them to other agencies. I'll give an example. We do not own transitional housing at Mission Central, but there are other agencies who do. So if a woman who's experiencing domestic violence comes in, and she's made the very difficult decision to leave her abuser, and she has children and needs to find a place to go, our Director of Family Services knows all of the agencies in the Tarrant County area who have those kinds of programs. And so she would gather the information and then help refer that person to another agency who provides that support. And so being aware of all of the other opportunities for people is a real commitment of ours, because if people walk in the door, they need help. And so if we aren't able to provide it ourselves, then we want to be sure that we can get them to someone who does.
Are you connected to other nonprofit organizations?
Most of the time as we talk about our work with nonprofits, we use the word collaboration, which means we may refer people back and forth between our agency and theirs. In the example that I just gave, there may be an opportunity for a person who is actually living in transitional housing that is operated by a different agency, but because they're in our community, they may still come here to the Village Pantry to get food for their family, or they may still go to the mobile food pantry, which we are responsible for. And so it's our responsibility to help other agencies know what we do, and then to work together with them, especially if we're sharing information about families. But as a general rule, there's not a whole lot of sharing of personal information because all of that is confidential. So if we have a client, for example, in our Family Opportunities program, and they need financial management classes, they may actually participate in a United Way class, but we would not share the information with the United Way folks without approval from the family that is our client family. So it's a little bit complicated when you start talking about what happens in nonprofit agencies, but we're all bound by confidentiality, so that we are protecting personal information. So that's important to all of us.
Is there a possibility of expanding your organization around other communities or states?
Gosh, that's a great question. I think most nonprofits that I'm aware of have a specific mission. And in our case, we were founded to assist people in Hearst, Euless, and Bedford. And so to broaden our scope beyond Hearst, Euless, or Bedford would really require our board of directors making the decision to include another city or another area. And that's a real complicated process, because you have to change your bylaws, you have to get approval from the Secretary of State, you have to register your organization in a broader area. And so growing an agency beyond what you originally said you were going to do is a real legal kind of process, because when you established yourself as a corporation, you identified your mission. And so what we would think about doing, rather than expanding to a bigger geographic area, would be to try to figure out whether we're providing all the